Ruby Stout was born Ruby House in Missouri in 1914. In 1928, when Ruby was 14, her family moved to Meeker. Ruby's mother wasn't well, and her doctor in Missouri thought she would be able to recover in the dry air of Colorado. Here Ruby remembers her family and life in Meeker in the 20s and 30s. Did you grow up in Missouri?
Yeah, well, we lived at Kabu, Missouri, and we moved out here in 1928. My mother wasn't very well, so my older brother was out here, and he thought that maybe this country would be, the air would be better for her. So we moved out here in 1928, and I think I was about 11 years old.
So you moved to, when you say out here, are you talking about this valley or?
We moved to Meeker.
Meeker.
And I went to school in Meeker, and we lived over there for several years. Don't know just for how long, but we was on a ranch up east of Meeker for several years. I went to school at a little school, country school, which they call Beaver Creek. And I walked, we had 3 miles to go. I had a sister and a brother that walked with me. And we went to school there, and then I went to high school in Meeker. I didn't graduate. I quit school at junior, and that I went to work doing different things and helping out on the ranches and helping people when they were cooking, and families cooking, and doing things like that.
So you came west from Missouri because was somebody sick in the family? Was it your mom?
My mother had the flu. That happened long years and years ago, and she wasn't very well, so that's why we came to the valley. And then later on, after we moved to Meeker, I don't know how many years, I've forgotten when we moved over, when my mother and dad moved over here first. Then I moved over here after I was married in Meeker. And I lived there a few years, and after my husband was killed in Meeker in a horse accident. And
sorry.
So then that left me to provide for my 2 children. So I moved to Rifle.
So how old were you when you lost your husband?
I must have been about 25.
Oh, that must have been hard to be.
Pardon?
That must have been hard to be single and have 2 kids.
I was single, and I had never worked, only just out in the country with the ladies cooking, and I moved to Rifle. Then I went to work waiting tables.
So you said that your mom got the flu way back when. Yeah. Was that part of the Great Flu epidemic?
The flu epidemic.
And she never really recovered very well?
She done pretty good because she always made her garden, and we always had lots of garden, and she did lots of canning, and then them days you had to do quite a bit of canning and stuff, things like that. And but my father died, and he was 65 years old, and she lived several years after that, 25 or 30 years after that.
When you moved out in 28, that was just before the stock market crashed a year later. Were things hard then? I mean, do you remember those as hard times?
I can remember when Mother used to, I don't know if she had the stamps, but she used to had egg cases and saved the cream, and that's how they bought groceries. And of course, she always made a big garden, and we did lots of canning, and the youngest brother and I, and did lots of helping and working with her in the garden and doing things like that.
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
I had an older brother and a sister, and then me and then my younger brother, 4 of us.
What year, you may have told me, but what year were you born?
I was born in 1914.
So was there a particular difficult time? Was it moving from Missouri at 11? Was that a hard time for you?
No, not really. I don't know. I have been a person that can adjust pretty good on anything that I did. The thing we had to Model T Ford. We came over in a Model T Ford, and it was open. And of course, we had bought a lot of things on that, which we didn't have a trailer, but somehow or other, Mother had a lot of things. And of course, and we came down to Colorado. When we came in, we had to stay in Red Cliff for 2 weeks because the Colorado River then run from bank to bank.
So you came during high water and you had to wait till it went down?
Mm-hmm. So we had to wait 2 weeks before we could come into Meeker. Of course, we came with just, I don't remember coming through Rifle, but then at that age, I didn't remember too much of that.
So at 11, you moved to Meeker, and what did your father do for work?
He leased a ranch and worked on a ranch, and that's where we lived.
Did your father run the ranch, or was he working for somebody?
No, he ran the ranch himself. It was just a ranch. He raised hay and grain.
Did you have animals?
Yeah, we had horses and had cows, of course. We had our own milk, and he had the work horses. We didn't have any riding horses, but we had horses from just work horses was all. And he did his own work, and he and the neighbors would trade back and forth doing different jobs and stuff, like haying and thrashing and all that.
There was quite a spirit of cooperation back then, wasn't there?
Yes.
People...
Everybody worked together and took care of each other.
Do you remember fun times around people getting together?
Oh, yeah. We went to church every Sunday, and Dad would fix up the buggy, and the way we'd go to church wasn't a buggy. It was sort of a smaller wagon, and we'd go to church, and it was Sunday school and church. And my sister and I sang in the choir, and a lot of times they would take potluck, and we had a beautiful place there where we could have a dinner, and we always enjoyed that a lot. And kids would play, and the women would talk, and the men would talk, and just had a great time.
What were your chores as a kid? What did you have to do?
Well, after all, we got big enough, we always helped Mother in the garden. And, of course, we'd gather our eggs, and we had what they call a corn crib, and we'd have to grind grain for the pigs. And we had quite a few pigs, and that was our meat. And we had grind the grain for the chickens and feed the chickens and gather the eggs. And we always had chores to do.
What was your dad like?
Oh, he was always real funny. He played the violin, and we'd sing and play around.
Really? Tell me about that. But he'd play music at the house?
He used to play violin, and I used to sing. When I was little, I learned to sing.
What sort of things would you sing? Do you remember the songs?
Oh, yeah, My Beautiful Red Wing, and that's the only one I really remember. I always liked that so well. You
said that he was a good-humored man?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, we had a happy family. Always a happy family.
What about your mom?
She was a happy person. She was always laughing and always did a lot of fun things with us girls.
So your memories of your family are pretty positive.
Oh, yeah.
Your mom and dad
they were
loved one another pretty much?
Oh, yeah, we had a good family relation.
Was there a particular hard time that your family had to get through together?
Well, no, I don't think so. I don't ever remember ever having any.
Nobody ever got really sick or...
Well, Mother, of course, when Mother had the flu, we did, but other than that, my Grandpa House lived with us for quite a while, and he passed away, but that's the only time that was kind of hard. Your
family must have had to have done pretty well to have saved enough money to pick up from Missouri and come to Colorado and start a farm. Did that seem like an adventure to you at 11?
Especially when we came in and we saw the Colorado River. I tell them now, they talk about the Colorado River. I said, well, you should have seen it. years and years ago when it was bank to bank, and it was almost in the road, but wasn't like probably 10 inches or maybe more about the in the road when we come down.
Yeah, that canyon was impassable when the water was high in some of those places.
Mm-hmm. So we come down that, and that I had never forgot about that water rolling and really high coming those banks. How water does when it gets big.
Pretty scary image, isn't it? To water out of control.
As I remembered, and I've thought of several times, my little brother and I were worried. Of course, he wasn't too old either, and we were always together. And I think about all that time when he and we did lots of things together. My younger brother and I did.
What sort of memories do you have of those times? Tell us what you did together.
We did lots of walking, and we'd work in the garden with Mother, and she'd say, "Well, now you come in and have your lunch." So we'd go in and have lunch with them. We'd all sit down at the table, and that was one thing. It meant we all had to be there and at the table when we ate, and we would eat our dinner, and then she'd make us sit for an hour before she would let us go. Then we'd always go down through Dad's cornfield and went swimming. So we went swimming, and we learned how to swim and played around in the water. And
how'd you learn how to swim? Who taught you?
Him and I just learned it. We just got down there, and we was in the pool ourselves, and we learned how to swim. We piddled around and play in the water until we finally learned to get in the pool. We learned how to swim.
It's pretty interesting because kids had a lot more freedom then, didn't they? I mean, parents didn't worry quite as much about them as they do now.
No.
Kids going down to the swimming hole by themselves these days would be...
Well, it was a small river unless it was high.
Right.
But
so there was no real risk.
As it rained a lot, then it was a lot that way. And we did a lot of go down and swim every once in a while. And then we'd go back home. Then, of course, we had chores to do in the evenings. My grandpa's house always chopped the wood, and we'd carry it in. He and I had to carry it in. So even after we growed up and was in Meeker and went to school, my brother and I was always close to get real close, and we did lots of things together.
That was Ruby Stout remembering life in Meeker in the 1930s.